And welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage. And you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is Vince Poscente. And I got to tell you, I was reading Vince's bio, which is like 72 pages, and said, wow, this might be intimidating. So I'll just give you some highlights. He went from being a recreational skier to an Olympic athlete in just 4 short years. He's an award winning sales and marketing exec. He has a master's in organizational management, one of only four people on the planet to be inducted into the USA and the Canadian Speaker Hall of Fame. Obvious stuff like best-selling New York Times best-selling author of 7 books, and he's been on Himalayan expeditions. I think most of us know Vince mostly as an amazing keynoter and someone that has been and stays very active in the space for a long time. So, welcome aboard, Vince. Thanks for coming on board.
Peter, I'm a huge fan of anything you do. So when you called, I said yes. And I didn't
Oh,
know what I was saying yes to.
oh, that was good. We might change that. So, you and I first met years ago in Texas. I want to start with speaking because I think there are misconceptions. I think, I get far too many people coming to me saying, "Hey, what's your plan?" And their plan is, "I'm going to write a book and then be a great keynote speaker in 6 months." I'm like, okay, let me take some wins out of yourself. So, talk to me a little bit about the sea change that has gone on in the speaking world from a business perspective, and then you've weathered the storm multiple times. How you've been able to do that?
Wow. Well, the sea change, let's start there because it really is kind of mind boggling. And I don't know if it's because, I'm in those algorithms as a speaker
Yep.
that I see more of these people hanging a shingle saying, "Hey, I'm an expert and can help you build your speaking business." And I look at these names, I go, Who are you? Like, and how did you end up getting all this wisdom at 30 years old? And so
And why haven't I heard your name, right? I think there is a cottage industry of people, it's selling the pickaxes in the gold rush, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, and God bless them. I mean, if you've got something and it's burning inside and you want to get it out there, the internet facilitates anybody
Sure.
be able to hang a shingle. So I just, I guess when I see this sea change happening, it's all the more prudent to really boil it down to the fact if you want to be a speaker, then speak, get in front of people.
Right.
The early on, after I had competed in the Olympic Games. This was 18 months after the Olympics. I did not win in the Olympic Games. There was no, phone ringing off the
Sure.
hook
Sure.
asking how I placed 15th in the Olympic Games.
No cornflake box. No cornflake
None of
box.
that. There was zero actually, but it kept showing up. And about 18 months after the Olympics, I gave a speech and then realized, shoot, I have to do this over again. This story of recreational skier to Olympian in 4 years is very easy to say, but easily the hardest thing I've ever
Of
done.
course.
I
Right.
mean, it
Right.
was it was exhausting, and it was every day just just focused on one thing to march in those opening ceremonies, and to do that again. I didn't, even at the age of 32 at the time, or 33, I was just going, I don't know if I just don't know if I want to do this again. But a good idea won't go away, and
Yeah.
so the long and short of it is I gave 100 presentations in 3 months. And I had a mindset of that I used in sport, which was do what the competition is not willing to
Hmm.
do. And that's really, if you look in the self honesty mirror, is exactly what you're not willing to do. So, there was a lot of creativity and innovation that has to happen, not just, I guess, at the beginning, but especially at the beginning. And this 100 presentations was, I called real estate office sales managers and I said, What have you got planned for your next meeting? When is it?" "Well, it's Monday." "Well, how would you like to have an Olympic motivational talk?" And they said, "Well, we don't have a budget." And I said, "No, no, no, it's free. I'll just do it." And so there were some days I gave 4 presentations in a day. But what happens is you get better
Yep.
and you do what the competition is not willing to do. Everybody's running around doing, does this website look good? Does this photo look good? Me holding the mic and pointing at the camera, does that look good? So all this stuff, the marketing piece and the social media and getting those likes and the followers and
So there's the craft, and I don't think the art and the craft has changed as radically as the business has, right? So
Right.
there's clearly a difference between good and great. There's clearly, you can tell the difference between someone that phones it in, or someone that really, really, masters what they do. And it's amazing to see, right? I want to talk for a minute about the business side. So from my perspective, working with lots of folks that are in this space, the bureaus used to sort of own the market, maybe 60, 70% of the market, maybe more, not that long ago, 8, 10, 12 years ago. And now, on top of having to be an amazing thought leader and a great speaker, you've got to figure out SEO and all this other stuff, because most speakers, not all, most are booking over 50%, typically closer to 75% directly, because the internet has done a crazy job of wiping out intermediaries and
Yeah.
large industry. So touch on that, because normally, the agents served a great purpose. Hey, they get you the gigs, they get paid their fee, they manage some of the logistics.
Yeah.
The burden's on you more for that now. Would you concur?
Oh, 100%. And just know that something that not everybody has noticed is bureaus are going more and more towards the exclusive speaker. Now, before you get all hot and bothered about, well, I need to be an exclusive speaker with a bureau, they're not going to
Right.
take anybody where the phone's not ringing.
Yeah.
You have to be a celebrity of sorts that the phone's ringing and that people want you.
Well, and I just want to push on that. The value prop on both sides of the party is different. So if let's say you're $1 million speaker, et cetera, and you go exclusive with a bureau, they know, they can predict what that revenue stream is.
Yep.
You know what your costs are of managing that process, and it has to be a win for both parties, right? And the expectation as from the speaker isn't so much that they're going to provide you all the net new business, but the value prop is more around the logistics and the brand, and maybe they'll get you some new business, but it's really a business management issue versus a pay for performance issue.
100%. So if the bureaus are becoming more and more as and I'm a non-celebrity, I might be a celebrity within the speaking world of sorts, but really, no, nobody's ever heard of me when I stand in front of them, and so I have to go out and get my own engagements. I still actively market to bureaus, but now I'm curating relationships, um, and it's a bureau has made up is made up of agents. Agents, some of them just you don't connect with, and some you do. And this is I'm 25 years into this business, and I have some really good friends, and when I do a launch of something new, I don't go to all the bureaus and say, "Hey, just there you go. This is for all of you bureau agents." I call up my buddies and say, "This is new. I'm throwing you a bone," and and I make it real easy for them to book me. So the bureaus are, in many ways, to many of our listeners, are an irrelevant piece because they're boutiques. They have their client base, they have their favorite speakers, and they're always looking for something new. I don't get me wrong, but they're not an entity, a collective entity. They're individual agents who do what they do very specifically with relationships, and that's where I categorize that.
So I think that's a key point, because people say, "Oh, I'm listed at Bureau X." Well, that's lovely, but it's the agent at the individual level, and that bureau might have 6 agents, 20 agents, whatever. How are you developing and fostering the relationship at the agent level
Yep.
to show that you can make their job easier and make their life easier? If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. Talk for a moment, if you would. One of the things I find shocking is this, what would I call it? Sort of the petunia factor of speakers, right? Where they don't realize that they're in a business and customer service matters. So, for example, when an agent calls you and it takes you 3 days to respond, guess what? You
Yeah.
just lost the gig. I mean, we're
Yeah.
literally now a race for speed almost in minutes, right? And if you're not responsive, guess what? They've got a list of 10 other folks that do what you do, or they can sell to their client. Then their demands, I only fly first class, and all that. Talk about sort of how do you, the relationships that you've forged with agents that you've worked with for a long time, how do you make each other's lives easier? How do you enjoy
Yeah,
working
well,
together?
I leverage technology. So I make sure that I get if it's somebody important that I'm with HubSpot. And I make
Yep.
sure that when I get a call, it immediately texts me that this person has called. Make sure you call them back, because if it's a lead, a follow up, whether it's an agent or
Yep.
a lead from through HubSpot, I instantly call them back. And I wrote a book that the New York Times bestseller it ended up being, which is called The Age of Speed. So here's a tip: if you write a book about speed, you screw yourself if you're slow. So
So maybe you need to write a book about the power of the pause in the sales process or
So
something.
just it's just getting after it and making them the priority right then and there. I don't know how
Yes.
you're dealing with this right now, but there's so many of these spam calls, and I don't know every agent's number, and so they're
Yep.
coming in and they're ending up being in maybe voicemail, or maybe they don't like to leave voicemail. I don't know, but I know I'm losing time because these filters are pushing them into my voicemail box. And so I haven't figured that one out yet, but it's all about meshing technology and then just making them a priority. And you know what they say consistently? They're shocked that I reached back to them so quickly.
Right, right, and but it says something, right? So if they've reached out, because listen, if an agent reached out to you, let's be honest, more likely than not, they've reached out to three others. So it's just
Yeah,
one point in the process to show that you're
right.
serious. What else can you do as a speaker to be sort of agent friendly?
Yeah, so I just did it yesterday, as a matter of fact. I was in Nashville. I gave a speech to a very large American association. There was 1,000 people in the room. That's the priority. But I flew in early and I left late. I rented a car and
Yep,
I popped down to that speaker bureau, and not all the agents were there. But you know what happened? The ones that couldn't be there ended up coming on board through Zoom, a Zoom call.
yeah,
So I had an
yep,
in person and a digital
yep,
meeting with all of them, and I'm launching this new speech to the safety world. It's called Radical Safety, and I'm
yep.
not going to all the bureaus and telling them what it is. I'm not going to everybody. I'm going to curate the people that need to see this and want to see it, who have clients that book these kind of safety conferences. So, that tip is good old fashioned relationships. It's not about
Yeah.
SEO or any of that. And I'm not trying to be old fashioned here. I'm just realizing that you don't get booked if there's not a relationship.
And you don't get booked if you're a jerk, if you're difficult to deal with, if you make ridiculous demands,
Oh, yeah,
if you
yeah,
treat agents as if they're some subservient, lower class citizen or something, that word gets around. And there are fewer and fewer speakers that actually have a really good reputation just as human beings,
uh-huh,
on the agent side. And I think that comes back. I want to flip to the other side now, given that the market shifted, because agents are still important, bureaus are still important. But if 70% of the business is coming direct, give us if someone's new to the game, let's say they're less than 3 years into the space on the speaking side,
yeah,
give us a handful of tips of things that they need to be doing to generate inquiries and leads and drive the business directly. Because you can't just, the old days you go get listed at 10 bureaus and sit back and, take up golf
yeah,
and wait for the phone to ring. Those days are over. What
yeah.
do you do to shake the trees yourself?
So, number one, you have to have what I call a DVP, or a distinct value proposition. And that DVP is, I mean, it has to be distinct. So if
Hence
you
the
say,
D.
right, not general,
Yeah.
not the general value proposition, the distinct. And so, an example is when I keep coming back to Keith Harrell, but he's since passed away. But I was reading all these Harvard Business Review articles
Yep.
and all this branding stuff, and I was getting my master's, as you mentioned, and and his distinct value proposition had cheese all over it. It was called "Attitude is Everything," right? And I looked it down my nose at that, and
Yeah.
I thought, how ridiculous! Do you know how busy that guy was? And the reason he was busy is he was very distinct in what he was offering. It
Okay.
was attitude. Attitude is everything. And when clients said, "We need that," then you've got that good start. Scott Gross had
Yep.
in what are there 5,000 customer service speakers, 10,000.
Yep.
He was positively outrageous service. So he had something very distinct. The second piece is lead with a video trailer, and there's all sorts of opinions across the
Yep.
board. I'm more of a fan of about 6-7 minutes, because I feel that if they're going to make that big ass decision of that the fee, I'm paying that much money. They want to see some evidence that you're worth it. So, but then the third piece is getting on YouTube and Vimeo, and then launching a bunch of 70-second, not more than 2 minute videos of your content, your expertise.
So wait, let's talk about the video piece because a lot of folks differ. It's hard for them to differentiate their reel, and we could debate whether it should be 2 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever. But the reel is basically the sample of this is who I am and what I do. Big audience, small audience, audience reaction. Blah blah blah. Like it's sort of almost a template, right? But I love this concept of the short form little snack, right? That you're actively going out there onto YouTube. Are those stage clips, or are those you at your desk? Are they formal? Are they professional? Give us a sense of sort of the production values, and is it more content? Tell me a little bit about that.
Right. Let's start here. It has to have the viewer go, "Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way."
So that's content, not production value per se, right?
Before production value, oh, I haven't thought of it that way. I just a few days ago spoke with George Campbell. He years ago came out with Joe Malarkey, the world's worst motivational speaker.
Yep.
I had shared office space with a speaker bureau, and they would watch that video for lunch because it was so freaking entertaining. And the video production quality was horrible, but it was flat out funny. I'd never seen anything like that. Gee, I hadn't thought of it that way. So when you lead with that, then the production value, if you've got stuff on stage, take a clip that's less than 2 minutes and put it on the internet. If you've got a clip that you're walking down the street that, you say, I was thinking something, and then you lay it out there in a way that's either innovative or counterintuitive, you're going to have the viewers go, this guy's on his game, or this person's on his or her game.
So it's a combination then, right? So
Yeah.
thoughtful, insightful, and a decent production quality. Any other recommendations for folks earlier on trying to because there's no barrier to entry, right? Anybody could say, hey, peterspeaker.com and go check me out or whatever.
Yeah, no. I would say also there's a sequence you're going to want to follow, and this is virtually not just with video, not just with your speech, but even in an email. And I call it the anatomy of communication, which is eyes. You want to get their eyeball, you want to get their attention where they go, well, this is different. So think of BuzzFeed in a way. They grab your attention with something,
Yep.
the three things you got to learn before you die. Okay, well, what are those three things?
Yeah.
So get their
So
attention with
something
their
almost
eyes. The head,
clickbaity, if you will.
yes, yes. And it in video, you have to start with that thing. If you start your video by saying, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
If you start your
Snooze.
speech, "Oh, what an honor to be here," or whatever,
You're
already
done.
you're done. Or you're having to catch up after you just said something they expect
Right.
you to say.
Right.
So the eyes, the head, get inside their head with either something that's innovative or counterintuitive that I mentioned. The audience, the viewer goes, "Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way." And then the heart, they want to see a real person. I mean, for us to have a conversation here, we're being conversational.
Right.
There's nothing stilted about this conversation, and we're being real. And if somebody doesn't like you or doesn't like me because maybe I said kick our
Right.
ass, maybe they don't like it when people use crass
Okay.
language.
Too
Well,
bad. Right.
it's who I am. I mean, they just said it. So, I mean, it's just connect with people in a very authentic way. And just know this, you can't do authenticity.
Well, so that's an interesting point because I've had clients that I've worked with where they have a certain style, right? Whether it's language that they use or a casualness in their dress, or they never wear a tie, and then it's they working with the client say, oh, okay, but for our event, everybody wears a tie, or something silly like that, and they're like, yeah, that's not me. So that's an indication that it's probably not a good fit. Now, if it's a black tie event or something like that, you're not coming in a
Yeah.
motorcycle jacket, but there needs to be some range of, hey, if you're speaker dropping the F-bomb, that's sort of a hot button. And the client's like, yeah, could you not do that? The answer might be, well, I that's part of my brand for better or worse. Maybe this isn't a fit. I mean, I think because part of it is having the courage to know where, dream of that audience that is the one that when you got off stage, you were as high as a kite and they were loving it as well. And how do you find more like that as opposed to conforming too much to try to, check their boxes or whatever?
A good little litmus test is this decision, is what I'm saying based on ego, or is it based on authenticity about intent?
Wait.
The
You're
intent
saying
is,
speakers have an ego? Hold on here. Hold on. Stop the
well,
presses.
Yeah, the poop detector will go off very quickly when the ego is really big, and that's probably what we're seeing live and on stage in our political
Yeah, yeah,
landscape.
exactly, exactly. Cool. So we're starting to wind up here, Vince, and so much wisdom here. And any final do's or don'ts?
Yeah, I would really come back to something I said earlier. It was almost a throwaway comment, but it was do what the competition is not willing to do. And that applies to four areas. So anybody listening, it's the financial things. What's your competition in the speaking world not willing to do with regards to financial? Physical, taking care of yourself, the physical preparation, the role playing, the getting in front of audiences anytime, anywhere, any price. The technical, I mean, are you a student of this? Are you researching constantly? Are you becoming an expert in that category? In a way the competition is not willing to do. And then mental and the mindset and mental training. And that's how I got to the Olympics. That's how I got to the New York Times bestselling. That's the Speaker Hall of Fame. All of that stuff happened because there was those four categories with the mindset of do what the competition is not willing to do.
Great. Well, and I also love that, you could speak of authenticity or you could be authentic, right? And you're always been relatable, right? When, like I said at the beginning of the show, wow, you read your bio and it's like, holy crap, this is pretty intimidating, right? But it's about, and that might get you in the door. That might be a differentiator. That might be part of the brand. That's all cool. But nobody wants a pompous jerk once they get on, right? And then,
Yeah.
part of the,
Yeah.
I think the gist of your brand is, yeah, I've done all those great things, but I'm just another guy like you. How can I help you? What can I do
Yeah.
to help you achieve
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
objective relative to this keynote? And
We're into this together.
yeah, and there's a humble piece, right? It's sort of an odd business to be humble in when most people work more than an hour a day and the end of their day doesn't end in a standing ovation, right? So it can affect your mind, but I think that staying humble and staying authentic is really cool. So I appreciate this, Vince. I've been a fan for a long time, and it's been an honor to have you on today. I appreciate it very much.
Well, ditto, man. You keep up the great work, Peter. You really are somebody you clear your throat. I take notes. So just know that.
Well, to you. So thank you.
All right, man. Take care, everybody.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.